So I want you to keep this in mind while I'm giving my presentation, so I'm just going to draw something really fast here. This is like what we call data science. So when you go through, or when we go through the presentation, like keep in mind data, which is the source of everything, just what you were saying. We have to have clean data. Then we have to have analytics. Then we have to have machine learning algorithms. And then we have AI, which is decision making. So thank you for your presentations. You already gave a lot of feedback on how everything works, so I won't bore you with that. I'm gonna give you like a very practical case. I'm CEO at Chaos Architects. My name is Natalia, and we are disrupting the way that we plan our cities. Now, just so you wake up a little, because then it's very heavy to have 3 presentators here presenting. Who of you is an architect here? No one. AI, yes. We have in our team AI architects and building architects as well. So how many of you have idea on how cities are planned? Around 4 or 5, maybe? Okay, good. So I'm gonna give you just a heads up. I studied IT or computer science, and I was working for a while. Then I also studied architecture, and then I also studied urban planning. So I'm a bit of a nerd. This is what we do when I sit down, for example, in the city or in a developer or building company. We look at patterns and we look at data in order to make decisions to plan city better. So right now there is a big issue around the world related to racism or xenophobia or segregation, and how the dialogue is, how do we decrease that? So how do we decrease that with urban planning, for example? So this is a study in New York where you can see like different ethnicities and where do they live. And this tells us a lot on how the city is planned, where do you have the high class, where do you have lower class, etc. And based on these decisions, then we get to say, where do we put schools, where do we put services, where do we put housing, and what is the price of the housing. In this example, then if I go to the right side of the map, then I can see that the population there, which is in Queens, New York, I can see that Black population is around 9%, Hispanic 21%, Asian 29%, white 38%, and others 3%. So it tells me that there's much more diversity in that area rather than in Manhattan, like in the city center. In the city center, we have more white persons. Ethnicity. So this is a study done by New York Times, or that it was shown in New York Times. And this is what me as a single person can also manipulate. Then this is another unit, researchers here in Finland and Tallinn. They took just like social media data, like from different apps. And they started understanding, well, they took photographs and they took places. So they compare time and they compare place. And then when were people tweeting or giving Instagram photos and so on. And then they made a really interesting study here, and then they figured out that, well, they sat down, there was no AI behind that, it was just humans, and they came up with all the coffee photos that they could find. And then they mapped them, and then they started like identifying patterns. So they classified them based on the photos. And they came up with a very interesting result. In one side, in Takatöle, like one area here in Helsinki, they said that, okay, we normally have regular coffee shops, meaning that they're kind of cheap. And this is because the people that are taking photos are just there because they want to have a coffee, just quickly. And then you see that kind of photo. Then if we go to Ada, well, we have fancy coffee shops because people are just Instagramming beautiful pictures. So maybe they just go there for social purposes. So this is one decision that humans made based on data. So this is also what we take for urban planning. As an urban planner, I can say, well, maybe we need more diversity in Takatön and then put more nice coffee shops there. Or maybe if I'm dressed incorrectly, I won't go to Eira to have coffee. So when we speak right now, you hear a lot about AI, yes, and smart cities. And then when we speak about smart cities, we speak about IoT. So it's a very, very pressing issue right now that where we are doing very little about it. I think that when we speak about IoT, we speak about robots. And think about it, in 2 years, here in Finland, 3 out of 5 people are going to be living here in Helsinki. So imagine that, imagine the pressure that we have to make good cities out of that. Now, 21%, a study made by Frost and Sullivan, show that, can you guess, well, 21% is the highest percentage out of different classifications, but out of the smart city, what had the most importance? Like, of all the sustainability, energy, transport, mobile cars and stuff. Housing? What else? Wi-Fi? It's like home. What else?
Traffic.
Sorry?
Employment.
Employment?
Traffic.
Traffic, okay. So 21% belong to people. So people was the biggest trend in smart cities. And actually we find very little companies dealing with people to make the smart city. We normally go to robots. So you are the last resource that we have to make the smart city. At Chaos Architects, we are building a platform where you, the human, is the center of everything. So what we're doing is that we're collecting data, and our base or our foundation is all of you. It's behavior, it's demographics, it's ideas, it's feelings. So all of these we process. And this is where I want to add the other perspective to AI. And I think it's just a new way of doing things and to do them smarter and much more sustainable. So this is what we do at Chaos. We crunch different sources of data. We have a cloud that runs AI algorithms, and we utilize open data, we utilize licensed data, and we utilize demographics. And then we get dashboards and process the information back to cities, builders, consultancy firms, etc., so they can make much better decisions in urban planning. Now I'm going to speak and show you what do I mean by dashboards. So this is what we do, what we have. You go into our system and then you start searching by areas and you filter things based on housing, citizens' ideas, urban planning, or urban ideas, housing, etc. You select an area and then you start getting information about that area. So very, very hard data, like processed, really, that it's out there by IoT, by sensors, etc. Now, how do we get this and how do we get so far citizens' ideas, aside from social media that you're currently using and aside from all this, like Google, when it asks you that, did you like this place? Or how do you feel this? Or go to your parking space, or here you have some free parking. We also use a tool that we developed. So in this tool, we ask you basic demographic information, and this is something that we do at the startup as well. We try to encourage you to use this. We use different models to secure your information, to make you anonymous, but we still want that information. We want demographics, so we can understand that when you were a single, you lived in Kallio because there were bars there and it's fun to live there. But when you got a boyfriend or girlfriend and then you had a baby, then you moved to Eira and had the fancy coffee. So this is what we do. So we collect data, we allow you to give ideas and feelings and tell us what you don't like in your city, what you would change, etc. And then we map them and so on. But a closer look at that, when we get that, we can go to an area and see the trending profile, like there. So I'll give you an example. Yesterday I was in a meeting, we were discussing in Tampere that we have a lot of students in the city, so we are building uxios, or single apartments. And it was fine. I mean, we are reacting to the market and situation, but then again you think, what's gonna happen in 20 years with those? What if they get a couple? And what if they live there? Or what if they move to Helsinki? What are we doing to retain them? All these questions that we ask there, we can answer with data and with fast processing and with decision making. So this is what we get. We can get what kind of persons are giving what kind of ideas. So if I say, hey, I want to put a dog park here, but I'm not a dog owner. Do I know by experience that maybe that's not a good place? Or if I'm a mother and I have kids and I propose a park, maybe I have the correct data, as you were saying, like not corrupted data, to provide back and say, hey, this is needed here, and we haven't thought about it. Now, back to open data. How does open data relate to this one? And I'm going to give you 3 examples in 3 sites, or columns or areas. So one, this is Airbnb. So this is related to real estate and housing. So Airbnb, you can get this data in the internet. And again, this is New York. And then it measures the satisfaction and where do people stay when they buy Airbnb and stuff like that. So if we collect this data in our cloud and we understand how Helsinki housing economy is moving, and Airbnb also, we can estimate the prices in the market, and we tell back to builders and back to everyone else that this is a better place to build houses. Then we go to transport. This is Uber information, and it's also open. So Uber right now estimates that from point A to B, it takes you 12 minutes, and it also tells you how many trips you have been doing there. If we get Uber and we get data from HSL together, then or HSL here, Transport in Helsinki, then we can also understand where the needs are. Do we really need a Länsimetro? Or do we need a tram? Or where do we need buses or bike lanes? As an urban planner, I can right away say, well, we need a bike lane there. But is that really true? Are people really using that? And then in sustainability, then we have, this is information about the air quality in Helsinki that comes also from Helsinki's open data. And we can see, for example, here that normally in the avenues, big avenues or Länsiväylä, like we have a bit reddish or yellowish mark, also there near Hakaniemi in Kallio. So we can see that air quality is not very good there. And if we map, for example, trees, or we map bike lanes, or we map health checks from people who have asthma, we can have better bike lanes or better walkable spaces for them, because we know where the air quality is better, and also we know like where they are also living. So this is a way where we mash up everything together. Now, Erling already commented a little bit on this. This is a simplified model. But when we get analytics, now you saw where do we get them, like from open data, from citizens, from you, from ideas. When we already have analytics, then we are running machine learning. And then from there, the machine learning starts understanding what are the patterns here. Like, is this housing good? Is it creating segregation? Is it like, what kind of people live in that area? Do we have good schools there? Is school proficiency going down or up? And how is that context? So it starts understanding patterns. Then we can forecast. So that means that we have the current data and we can estimate. We can run graphics and say, okay, it looks that it's going to go bad, or it looks that it's going to improve. Then after that, we take a decision. The machine takes a decision. So this is not a human here, it's a machine, AI, and says, well, I estimated that the quality of air is going high here, and also the school improvement, like the proficiency of the school there. So I'm guessing that this is a good place to build houses. So the machine says, yes, let's build more houses there. And then The machine takes a decision and estimates and tells us urban planners, city councillors, politicians, builders, and you community that, hey, we actually do need this in order to make a much more livable city. But as Erlin also explained, the more data we aggregate, the more we polish our decisions. So maybe first it was a bit dull, but then it starts to improve. Eventually, we would be able to compare cities around the world and tell you that New York is much more livable than a city in Asia, for example. So that's where we come with chaos livability. This is what the data we have in 3 different columns: real estate, mobility, and sustainability. We have history, and we can run forecast. And eventually, we expect to give you the livability of your city, so you can also make decisions on where to live, on how to raise your children, and take also better decisions overall. So I want to leave you with these questions. And one is, do we have access to data? I think we have. There's tons of it. Helsinki, New York, these cities promoting smart cities are opening it. Do we know how to analyze data? This is a bit more tricky. We do know, we have the theory, but are we doing that correctly? Now, can we ensure privacy? Now, if we are willing, and this is my personal opinion, if we are willing to give data easily in social media or running tests that gets our data and so on, are we willing to give our data in order to make better cities, for example? Should we be afraid of that? I don't think so, if it's for good. And are we ready to forecast? Is our data really polished and really homogeneous that we would be able to forecast that? Then can we give back to society through the use of AI? This is a question that I leave to you. Thank you very much.